Good morning, Monday Clubbers. Tony here. Hope you're well and rested, ready for more watercolour mayhem. So, I hope you're all stocked up with paper and paint, ready for the lockdown on Thursday. I'm going to the pub on Wednesday night and get stocked up on that for 6 weeks or so. Well, we're lucky. We've got our watercolour to keep us happy. So, take a look at this for our next venture. This is nothing at the moment. Right, it's a photo I took many years ago near Holmfirth, and this could follow on in the calendar. I did a snow scene last week, which would do for February. That snow scene was Melton. This is a summer's day in Holmfirth. I could do August maybe in the calendar. So I've painted this already. It looks complicated on this photo, but here's the painting. So I simplified it, and it's really not too difficult. So broad bands of simple colours with detail added later. You'll see as you watch and you paint. So have a go. When I click this button, we're painting. Okay, so I've drawn it in. All the major elements are there as I've described. So I'll start with the sky. First of all, I'll wet it. It's incredibly dirty water, but never mind. Okay, so a fair bit of water on that, so I'm going to give it a couple of seconds to soak in. And then I'm going to dab it all off again, but the reason I do that is the paper is still damp, but it's not running and it's reliably damp, so that's the perfect condition for the sky. So French ultramarine, now this camera is very close to my face, so I'll keep smacking it, I'm afraid. Right. Okay. Well, that might do. Let's see how that dries. I could come back over it with more. Now, there's a bit of aerial perspective going on here in the whole picture, and even in the sky, which means that the clouds in the distance are smaller than they're more horizontal than the ones higher up, which are almost overhead. They're also a different colour. Now, it's a bit fierce. I'm going to add a bit of grey. Just to the underside of these clouds. Okay. I don't want a really complicated sky because I don't want the sky to dominate the picture. So I think we're virtually done here. A few grey patches here. You can see the granulation, which French ultramarine is famous for. It's quite nice. So make sure I'm down at the horizon. If I'm below the horizon it doesn't matter, because that will be darker. Now be careful when you do this, it can be a bit unrealistic sometimes. I'm dabbing it with a damp portion rather than the dry portion, which of the kitchen roll. If it's dry, it just takes all the colour out, which might be good, but not at the moment. Okay. Okay, I'll leave that. I'll put you on hold. Okay, I've dried that. Just putting a few more patches of grey in the sky, not too much. Okay, let's move on. So these fundamental areas of colour. So I'll do the first one. So I'm mixing ultramarine, cadmium lemon and a bit of Payne's grey. Right. So there's a similar colour in the far distance, a bit darker. But less saturated. So this is the aerial perspective which we mentioned in the intro, which tells us that the colours in the far distance are a little bit muted. So these are moorlands, God knows where, but going down towards Manchester, I should think. I think that can come right down to the tree line there. Because the trees are a bit darker, I can do those later. That's a bit bright, too bright. Naples yellow is a fairly dense colour. It's not very yellow. It's not right yet. Adding a bit of sepia. That's nearly there. A bit more sepia. Now we'll get a fuzzy line between these two colours because they're both wet. So just bands of colour, no detail yet. That'll come later. Okay, happy with that. Okay, now this is a mixture of raw sienna and Naples yellow, because this is a fairly dry looking pasture in the distance. Adding a bit of green. Because that's what I see. Back to paler colour there. Okay, that's another band of colour done. Back to a stronger green. More vivid. Put some cadmium lemon in there. Ten minutes done, so I'll pause you while I finish this. Right, swap to another brush, so I didn't want to lose all the green in my larger brush. So I'm a bit tight with my paint. Okay. Green again. Another field. So this field, or paddock, is quite a muted green. It's in full sun, but it looks as though it's been got at by the farmer. I wanted this plain colour. It's not on my original, but I want the gate to stand out. Okay. Now I'm going to do darker greens. Now, trees in the distance, even in summer, go quite dark. The colour is sucked out of them by probably the atmosphere between here and there. The aerial perspective at work again. Probably more prominent in the UK than most countries. It's probably the composition of the air, the atmosphere. I'm sure they don't get it in Norway. It's going to suck some paint, some colour out. Just to give the impression of trees in the distance. So this is a dry brush. Might as well do this while it's wet, and I don't have to make a meal of it later. So those trees, as they come towards us, we'll get more green. So I modified that colour. To be more green. These trees here, same colour. I'll pause you while I do this. I'm just going around adding trees here and there, all because it's all the same colour. Might as well get on with it. Side of the brush technique for it's good for trees in the medium distance. And this comes right down to the road level. This might get cropped off at the end, but I'll finish it just in case. Add some dark under to the base of this tree. I'll say some dark, so it's some medieval potion. Right, so I'm going to come right up to the foreground now with the sort of a underlying coat of green. Very dry brushy. That might come in useful later. Sort of fizzling out here. Because this is very pale. Rough grass that's gone to seed in the foreground here. Oops, excuse me. Leave it at that for now. Just add a little bit of brightness to it up here. Okay. little section there. They're going to run together, I think, those greens. And then shadowy portion there. Okay, I think that's okay for now. I've got to keep pausing you, I'm running out of time. 19 minutes up, 10 to go. Right, so I'm going to start on the wall. Now, as I said, I'm going to ignore the highlights that the sun picked out on the top of the wall, because I don't want it to interfere with the background. I might come back over this when it's dry. I'd rather do that to get darkness rather than try and do it in one hit. It's just too risky. So even though it's very dark, it has a life of its own, this wall. So I'll leave that, make that green later. So I'm alternating with two brushes. This has got neutral tint, this has got sepia. Don't know why, I'm just thinking it'll pay off. Right, this has got a fairly clean edge down to there. Hope you can hear me muttering away. Right, so there's some grass here. So I'll make a fist of back painting round like this. But that's not the whole picture. I'll have to come back in last of all with some gouache just to finish it off. So I'll pause you for the moment. So I am leaving the highlights on the top of this wall. Just so as to define its extent. I'm switching you on and off just so you don't miss anything. But I need to conserve the time. So this is neutral tint, this colour, which is called that, I assume, because it doesn't have any colour in it. It's lack of colour. Whereas Payne's grey, you might think it's similar, but that's got a bluey tinge to it. And this hasn't any tint at all. Tint at all. There's a strange word. Put some character into this stone. Okay. Now the road has a definite blue look about it. I'll leave it at that. That will dry very pale, so I'll just add a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. So put the gate in. Been quite looking forward to this. Bit bent and battered. Put some gaps in there. These braces look a bit wider. Must be face on to us. These quite flamboyant braces at each end. Can't see this one so good. Sort of hiding. Okay. Whew. Forgot to breathe again. Right. The really faint lines I'll do later when you're not looking. 27 minutes, right. Okay, I'm going to do the grass and go around adding detail. I'll do that fairly quickly. Right, I painted the grass in with Naples yellow, and I used the same colour just to add a bit of life to these far off pastures. So it's strange that something a couple of yards away, which is dried out grass, is the same colour as farmlands about half a mile away. Right, now I've got some pretty dark green in my brush, and I'm going around adding detail. I love doing this. Makes painting come alive. Like all good things though, you can overdo it. Now there's some houses and buildings here, I'll do those later. So I'll carry on when you come back. It'll be nearly done. I will let you back in now and again so you can see what's going on. There's a fairly dark shadow cast by this wall. Alright, a bit of gouache. Just adding to what I've already hinted at with the negative painting earlier. So just here and there, nowhere near as much as on the original. I'm guessing this will dry a bit paler. So how are we doing for time? 32 minutes. So hold on now. The time used to be a massive problem, and I used to film this on my mobile phone, which had a 4 gig limit, like they all do, which equates to about 33 minutes. I used to get a bit jittery at this stage, but now I've got a webcam. I could film for hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to I think. How's it looking? I haven't got a mask big enough. I haven't finished. I'll go and carry on adding a bit more colour, contrast, put the wires in, big amount, but for half an hour. It looks fair enough. I decided it looked a bit sallow, so if I'm careful I can go straight across that gate. So it's beginning to run a little bit, so I'll leave that. I don't know, this looked, I mean this is correct as it is, but it looks awful, so inject a bit of life into that. I'll leave that bit. That looks better already. One or two of these fields can get the treatment. No. Dirty fingers. No. I think that looks better. Nah, I'll leave that. Okay. I think I'm done. Might just do these wires. Hold on now. Hold on now. It's my secret weapon. This is a sword brush. Probably regret this. I just realised that wire is not electrical wire, it's a brace. Could look confusing. Sometimes wish our streets had more wires like they used to. Oof. That's a bit fierce. Ooh, stuck with it now. That's how I meant to do it. Oh well. I'm just showing off now, aren't I? So I've got that to do. Bit of a lump there for some reason. Yeah. What do we think? I think that's okay. Right, going now. Right, thanks for watching. I enjoyed that, hope you did. And I'll see you next week. Bye now.